I am just getting vertigo trying to keep up with all of the allegations swirling around politicians in Washington and Richmond. It's really coming fast and furious. And it occurred to me as I was sitting down to write a column that so many of these allegations and admissions and accusations are from 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 35 years ago. And at some point, we, as a political culture, as a media culture, have to ask the question, do we now have an age of zero tolerance for anything that anybody ever did at any time going back to high school? I mean, many of these cases involve high school or college or graduate school. And I think there's a debate to be had, not to minimize some of these allegations at all, but I think there really is a debate to be had about, is there any room in our culture for forgiveness if somebody goes on to have a successful career and maybe they made a really dumb mistake at a young age, but are they going to be judged by that? Is their career going to be blown up by that? Or are they going to be forced to resign because of that, because of something that happened so long ago? And there's a lot of partisan hypocrisy on this. When the accusations are being dredged up against the Republican, the Democrats go crazy. When the accusations are being made against a Democrat, the Republicans demand swift justice. So just looking at the three people in Virginia, you start out with the governor, Ralph Northam, who acknowledged posing in blackface in the Michael Jackson episode, although he then disputed the KKK and blackface pictures on his yearbook. That all happened in 1984 when he was 25 years old. Mark Herring, the state attorney general, he said Northam should resign over this, but oops, he posed in blackface imitating a rapper at some sort of contest. That was in 1980 when he was 19 years old. And the man in the middle, Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax, arguably much more serious accusation of sexual assault, which he initially denied, and he said the woman was making it up and it was just a smear. But now that his accuser, Vanessa Tyson, has come forward with an on-the-record statement graphically depicting what she says happened was, yes, they both agree there was consensual kissing, and then she says it devolved into an absolute assault involving forced oral sex. This happened in 2004. Enabling Fairfax to say, well, it's 15 years ago, and why didn't she come forward before this, and all of that. Now, what does that remind you of? Of course, it reminds you of Brett Kavanaugh and Christine Blasey Ford and the nationally televised hearings, the Supreme Court showdown over whether he did or did not commit sexual misconduct or sexual assault against Ford, leaving aside for just a second the allegations by other women. And that took place, allegedly, according to Christine Ford, in 1982, when Kavanaugh, since confirmed obviously, was a teenager, was a high school student at Georgetown Prep. And there was a debate then about how far back are we going to go. Maybe he drank too much beer in high school. Does that mean anything if he's gone on to have a successful legal and judicial career? And the latest case, Elizabeth Warren, already on the defensive. She's running for president, obviously. Massachusetts senator had already apologized to various Indian tribes for claiming on college applications that she was of Native American extraction. And the Washington Post discovers this registration card from the Texas State Bar in her own handwriting. She writes American Indian. She was in a hallway press conference and she said she apologized. She'd always been told this story by her family, but she said it was 30 years ago. It was, in fact, back in the 1980s. So with all these things, is there any statute of limitation? I'm not saying politicians shouldn't be held accountable. I'm not saying that journalists shouldn't dig these things up. And voters or people who are voting to confirm a high-level appointee have to make their own judgments. But it just seems to me we've reached a point where we're constantly dredging up stuff that happened decades ago, and I think it's worth reflecting on, is this out of control? Are we in an era of absolute no tolerance, no matter what happened, no matter when it happened, no matter how long ago it was, and even if somebody apologizes for that behavior? Because we're going to reach a point where nobody is going to be able to run for public office or serve in a high position because everybody has done something wrong, even when they were growing up.